Amidst the bustling school setting, a hopeful boy nervously presents a heartfelt letter, declaring his long-held feelings with a desperate plea, "Please be my girlfriend." His confession, however, is met with an awkward, from the girl, leading to his heartbroken, "sorry," as he faces rejection. A girl tries to friend-zone her childhood friend, stating she thinks of him as a good friend. However, she quickly reverses course, enthusiastically hugging him and declaring she's totally okay with dating him, asking him to let's go out. As her friend appears stunned, another girl unexpectedly interjects with a simple, "all right." Standing tall against a sky filled with clouds, the archery-skilled angel holds her bow. "This month's quota is done," she declares, hinting at her successful work behind the scenes. Following the whirlwind of confessions and new relationships, we now find ourselves at the archery range. Yu, the male childhood friend and rival, is visibly frustrated, yelling, "Crap, I lost," after a seemingly decisive shot. The victorious Cupid, seemingly accustomed to this outcome, coolly addresses him with "you," and declares, "As usual, you will buy me bread tomorrow." Yako, the Cupid, celebrates her victory over Yu by declaring it an efficient way to get food, even as she adjusts her clothing. Yu, visibly frustrated, yells at her for always choosing the biggest and most expensive bread. But Yako simply dismisses him, playfully retorting that he's the one who will get fat, and her only task is to beat him for her bread the next day. Yu remains utterly bewildered, then explodes in frustration as Yako, still perfectly composed, looks down at him. As he shouts in anger and declares he'll never forgive her, Yako casually walks away, turning back only to call him Shorty and leaving him fuming. As Yu seethes from another defeat, their sensei offers a consolation prize and asks why he's so hell-bent on beating Yako. Yu vehemently replies that it's simply because he can't stand her. Elsewhere, a proud parent marvels at their skilled daughter. Yu's frustration boils over as a glasses-wearing friend remarks on how it pisses him off that he can't catch up to someone like that, mirroring Yu's own anger at Yako's smugness and her not seeing him as a rival. Yu, seething, declares he's absolutely going to win, even fantasizing about twisting Yako's beautiful face with frustration. His friend simply smiles, calling him kinda twisted for it. The classroom is awash with affectionate couples, further fueling Yu's already boiling frustration as he angrily presses his pen to his paper. His glasses-wearing friend, seemingly unaffected, points out the overwhelming number of couples, mockingly telling Yu not to be jealous and calling it pathetic. He then needles Yu, asking why he doesn't just confess to that senpai if he's so bothered. As Yu seethes, his friend mistakenly asks if he's talking about that senpai, prompting Yu to clarify that he means Yako. His friend, realizing Yako's unexpected popularity, nonchalantly dismisses Yu's chances due to the sheer number of rivals. Enraged by the implications, Yu erupts in frustration, vehemently declaring that Yako is the girl he's going to crush completely one day. Yu vehemently rejects the idea of Yako being a cool beauty, even as others marvel at her national archery ranking, great grades, and stunning looks. A student dismisses Yako as just a nasty girl with a nice face, tall, and good at archery, prompting Yu's friend to tease him about having a crush on her. Yu just grunts in denial, while the rumor of Yako having a fan club only intensifies his frustration. Yu angrily declares his sole focus is archery and beating Yako, dismissing any interest in superficial stuff. But when rumors of a confession behind the school reach him, and he's questioned about being interested in her, Yu vehemently shouts, "I said no!" His friend then calls out to him, observing his intense reaction. Yu's glasses-wearing friend, exposing Yu's earlier claim of disinterest in superficial stuff, catches him eavesdropping on a confession involving Ayumu from Class 2 and another student, Yoshida. The friend playfully tells Yu to shut up, remarking that watching others go through this is fun. He then objectively assesses the situation, concluding that Yoshida doesn't seem to have much of a shot, already planning what to say to him after the inevitable rejection. Suddenly, high above, Yako appears with her bow, startling onlookers. Students below exclaim in shock, with one even falling over while shouting her name. Yu's glasses-wearing friend watches the commotion, as another student yells, "What the heck is she doing up there?" As Yako stands precariously high above, holding something small, Sensei shouts, "Yako, what the hell are you doing?"
Yu, already seething from their rivalry, explodes in frustration and concern, yelling, "Trying to die like that, I won't forgive you, and running away with a win, I won't forgive that either." But before she can fully explain, Yako's foot slips, causing her to lose balance, as Yu immediately shouts, "Don't be reckless."
As Yako's foot slips, her confident stance gives way to a rapid fall, sending her tumbling downwards with a gasp. Yu, who had just shouted, "Don't be reckless," can only watch in wide-eyed horror as his rival plummets from above. As Yako plummets from the rooftop, her angelic wings dramatically unfurl around her. Yu, in sheer panic, lunges forward, desperately reaching out as if to catch her. The chaotic scene shows them falling amidst the city buildings. Yu, with a mix of shock and determination, lunges and manages to grab Yako midair, shouting, "Huh?" as he does. As they continue to plummet towards the city, Yako lets out a distressed, "Ah!" Yu clutches her tightly, and a dazed, "Bleh!" escapes her lips as she's secured in his grasp. Yako dramatically presents a license, declaring her duty as from generation to generation. Yu, wide-eyed and utterly bewildered, stammers, "Cupid?" Yako confirms, stating her job is making couples with love arrows. Yu then incredulously points out a naked floating person holding a bow, to which Yako swiftly labels him a pervert before conceding that he's right. Yu, still processing the unbelievable relation, shouts, "You're kidding?" Yako demonstrates her Cupid duties, causing Yoshida and Ayumu to suddenly embrace in a passionate kiss, their feelings overflowing amidst blooming flowers. Yu, utterly aghast at the sight, can only stammer, "Whoa," as the power of the love arrow is explained. When Cupid's arrow strikes, that happens. As Yu processes Yako's unbelievable revelation, he connects the dots, realizing she's the reason for all the couples at their school. Yako, radiating confidence, proudly confirms her Cupid duties, boasting about being ranked #1 and declaring her rise to the top is inevitable. Terrified by her power and smugness, Yu can only exclaim "scary" before attempting to sneak away, muttering, "Oh crap, they look this way." As Yu, still reeling from the shocking truth of Yako's Cupid identity, attempts to make his escape, Yako firmly declares that their existence is a top secret, something no one outside their family should ever know. Completely dumbfounded by this new layer of revelation, Yu can only stammer out a confused, "Huh?" Then Yako, holding her bow and an arrow, asserts with absolute confidence that there will be no leaks of her identity, reiterating the dire consequences if ordinary people find out. She then explains that, with these arrows, she can make people fall for each other, guaranteeing they won't resist anymore. Yu, utterly bewildered by her serious demeanor and the implications, can only stammer a hesitant, "Hey." As Yu frantically tries to escape, terrified of being struck by one of Yako's love arrows, he yells in desperation. Yako, perfectly composed, calmly aims, telling him not to move because she's not used to hitting moving targets. Yu screams, accusing her of spilling all her secrets, while Yako dismisses him as an idiot for wanting to get hit. He makes an awkward remark about just the tip, prompting Yako to blush and retort, "Don't ever say that publicly." Yu continues to bolt, yelling, "It's okay, it won't hurt," as he narrowly dodges a barrage of arrows, desperately shouting, "Geez, stop it." Yako, bewildered by his reactions, questions, "What do you mean?" before catching an arrow with a surprised, "So agile." Yu, believing he's finally out of range, confidently declares that even Yako can't hit him from this distance, thinking she's stopped firing. But his relief is short-lived as an arrow unexpectedly strikes him. Utterly bewildered, Yu can only stammer a shocked, "Eh?" Yu, having just been struck by Yako's love arrow, finds himself plummeting through the air with her, screaming in pure terror as she calmly holds him. With a powerful beat of her wings, Yako swiftly catches the bewildered Yu, who frantically demands to know what she's doing. "Rest assured," she calmly replies, looking at him with a composed expression, and stating, "Caught you." Even as Yako catches him, Yu's mind races, replaying her words. "As long as you stay away from me,
you will be able to live a normal life. He internally struggles as he hears her declare this distance to be the rational and best choice. But Yu's face twists in a silent, furious refusal, his teeth gritting against the very idea. As Yu reels from the love arrow's unexpected impact, he passionately confronts Yako amidst their freefall, accusing her of only caring about being rational or efficient, and never trying to understand his feelings. Yako, still holding him as they plummet, calmly retorts, "You're always like this." Even as Yu tries to clarify, Yako, with a slightly confused expression, admits, "I don't quite understand what you mean."
Still plummeting through the air, Yu fiercely clutches Yako, her angelic wings unfurled around them. With an arrow falling nearby, he vehemently rejects the idea of separation, shouting, "A life without Yako? Screw that." His determined grip shows he's not letting go, defying her attempts to push him away. As they continue their perilous freefall, Yu desperately clings to Yako, an arrow still visible in her feathered wing. He lets out a strained, "Ugh!" utterly frustrated and bewildered by their predicament and his overwhelming emotions. After the dizzying fall, Yu, still clinging tightly to Yako, is visibly shaken. Once safely on the ground, Yako sternly tells him, "Stop doing anything reckless, okay?" A terrified Yu shouts, "I thought I was gonna die," before hesitantly trying to address, "About earlier?" Following their chaotic freefall, a composed Yako confronts Yako, declaring a life without a rival is the worst and boring as hell. An unseen adult figure observes Yu, remarking, "For you, that actually sounds logical." But Yu, still reeling and utterly confused by Yako's words, can only yell, "Yako, you, eh?" as she challenges him, asking, "You still don't get that?" As flowers suddenly bloom around her and an arrow visibly pierces her, a bewildered Yako stares in shock. "The arrow," she gasps, realizing the potent magic at play. Struck by the overwhelming emotions, Yako hesitantly questions, "In other words, we are going to get married, right?" Following Yako's unbelievable and sudden question about marriage, Yu is left utterly stunned, only managing to stammer a bewildered, "Eh?" His shock deepens into complete confusion as his expression twists, muttering a strained, "Huh?" The story abruptly ends on this cliffhanger, leaving Yu and the readers in utter disbelief. The rhythmic tap of a cane echoes through a desolate street, as Arthur, a man in a sharp white suit, walks with eerie composure. But the silence is deceptive. A massive, clawed limb slowly unfurls from the shadows at his back, accompanied by an unsettling hiss. In a sudden, violent burst of power, a towering, eldritch entity reveals itself, looming over the gentleman with terrifying intensity. Facing down the towering monstrosity, Arthur maintains his calm, greeting the horror with a polite inquiry that brings the tension to a grinding halt. The massive, clawed limbs instantly retract as the nightmare dissolves into the form of a small, wide-eyed girl. The girl attempts to regain her intimidation, baring her claws and threatening to devour Arthur while assuming he's paralyzed with fear. Instead, Arthur adjusts his glasses with a cheerful smile, innocently asking if it's already Halloween. He sincerely apologizes for not having any candy on hand, a polite response that leaves the once menacing horror utterly deflated and speechless. Arthur pulls out a pocket watch and politely asks for the time, but the girl, still in a sulky mood, sharply tells him to just look at it himself. The tension shifts from awkward to soul-crushing as Arthur calmly reveals that he is, in fact, blind. Realizing her massive blunder, the once terrifying entity is left completely frozen, paralyzed by the sheer weight of her own dumb insensitivity. The chilling atmosphere instantly dissolves into domestic awkwardness as the girl stammers out an apology, which Arthur accepts with his signature composure. Nyx appears completely flustered, her terrifying eldritch aura replaced by the shy, wide-eyed expression of an embarrassed child. Glancing up at the crescent moon, he's shocked to realize it's already 9 p.m. It seems their strange encounter has stolen the entire evening. Shaking off his initial shock, Arthur regains his composure and politely suggests the girl head home. However, her hollow stare and ragged clothes underscore a tragic reality as she quietly admits she has nowhere to go. Struck by pity for the displaced entity, Arthur makes a fateful decision, offering the poor thing a place to stay, ignoring every rule of common sense regarding bringing strangers into one's home. Utterly baffled by his lack of fear, the girl questions Arthur's sanity, only for him to laughingly agree while offering her a place to stay. Realizing she has nowhere else to turn, she reluctantly follows the eccentric gentleman under the glow of the streetlights, her monstrous tails trailing behind his calm silhouette. As Arthur casually asks if she's hungry, the once menacing entity finds herself less of a predator and more of a guest, marking the start of a very strange new life. Arthur takes the initiative and brings the mysterious girl home, casually introducing her to his wife as a child in need of a place to stay. Displaying an equally calm demeanor, his wife welcomes her with a warm smile and a polite invitation inside, treating the surreal situation with complete normalcy. This sudden turn toward domesticity leaves the once menacing eldritch horror utterly speechless as she's ushered into her new home. We open in a crowded club, where some budget yakuza with more piercings than brain cells is busy harassing a waitress who clearly isn't getting paid enough for this. Just as the creep's ego starts peaking, our towering protagonist Renji steps out of the shadows, looking like he hasn't had a nap since the Edo period. Before the guy can even finish his "Do you know who I am" speech, Renji muzzles him with a hand the size of a dinner plate and drops a classic pipe down numbnuts. Renji follows up his act of chivalry by looming over the poor girl, who is currently vibrating with enough anxiety to power a small city and demanding to see her manager. She hits him with the classic "I'm not a kid" defense before immediately short-circuiting, remembering her boss's one rule: don't bring suspicious people to the office. Unfortunately for her, Renji looks like he eats legal documents for breakfast, and one pissed-off death stare there, she's already folding faster than a cheap lawn chair. Renji finally lets the girl go, probably because his creepy stalker meter was hitting the red, claiming he already knows where his target is anyway. He wanders into the main hall, stopping only to have an existential crisis about how big the floor is. Honestly, Renji, maybe lay off the sake, before finally locking eyes with our mystery woman. Enter the pigtail girl with a mole and a smile that says she's either the love interest or she's about to ruin this man's entire week. Renji drags his tired bones to the bar, where Pigtails McGee hits him with the ultimate edgy call-out, the Silent Reaper. Our boy looks like he's physically allergic to his own 2012-era gamer talk, but she's too busy pouring a drink and smirking to care about his wounded dignity. She asks what brings him back from his retirement, because apparently, quietly living your life is a concept that simply doesn't exist in the Hitman Handbook. Renji tries to play it off like he's just here for a casual beverage and a vibe check, but Pigtails isn't buying the "I was just in the neighborhood" excuse from a guy whose primary personality trait is brooding. She casually drops the latest office gossip. Apparently, Renji's been busy deleting syndicate bosses in the East District, and admits she fully expected him to return in a body bag rather than a bar stool. Our boy hits her with a dry "no" when she digs for his real motive, while she gives us a close-up smirk that says she's definitely got more on the menu than just overpriced cocktails. Pigtails is surprisingly chill about Renji's skyrocketing bounty, assuming he just had a really bad Monday and decided to choose violence. While the generic background goon back there looks like he's reconsidering his entire career path, she drops the Kurigane name and pivots straight to a roast session. Apparently, our boy used to be a clean-shaven pretty boy, but she thinks his current look is, and I quote, "fucking disgusting." Man, nothing hits harder than your old contact telling you that your brooding hitman makeover is actually just unwashed hobo chic. Apparently, back in the day, Kurigane was a sadistic, energetic bastard with a jawline sharp enough to cut glass. But now, he's justifying his hobo chic transformation by claiming looks invite problems. Nice try, Renji. We all know you just lost your razor. They settle into a staring contest so intense it's practically sparking.
At least until some thirsty customer ruins the brooding atmosphere by actually asking for a drink. Honestly, the level of intense focus these two have for a casual bar chat is more exhausting than the syndicate hit he just finished.
Pigtails is out here literally betting on Renji's life like it's a horse race, wishing him fun while a blonde goon tries to earn some extra credit. Too bad for Mr. Generic Suit, because Renji isn't in the mood for a group project, immediately trading his cocktail for a shattered glass facial reconstruction. Seriously, imagine getting your entire dental plan deleted, only to be hit with a "you gotta be quicker than that" quip. Talk about adding insult to a very expensive injury.
Renji proves multitasking isn't just for office workers by deleting Mr. Blonde's dental plan while landing a no-look headshot behind him. Who needs depth perception when you're this edgy? Check out the absolute masterpiece of a facial reconstruction he gives Mustache Man, while Pigtails just vibes in the background giving a thumbs up, like she's watching a 5-star cooking show instead of a triple homicide. He finishes the combo with a backhand so massive it sends the remaining budget Yakuza flying like they've got a scheduled flight to the next chapter.
Renji's out here treating this bar like a tactical shooting gallery, until, oops, the Silent Reaper forgot to check his ammo count. Blonde Suit thinks he's finally caught a break when the gun goes click, but Renji just pivots into close quarters mode, because apparently a heavy metal pistol works just as well as a very expensive hammer. Look at that final panel stare. That's the face of a man who hasn't seen a razor or a bullet in 3 days, and he's officially making it everyone else's problem.
Renji realizes the goons actually used their one shared brain cell to short-load the magazines. But all that tactical genius just earns them a faceful of his elbow while he checks his watch like he's late for a dental appointment. It's 8:52 p.m., and apparently, if he doesn't finish this speedrun by 10, someone named Jihi is going to be way scarier than any syndicate hit. He casually strolls past the human wreckage, mocking the rest of the crowd for hiding in the shadows because they finally realized that a fair fight with this man is basically just assisted suicide.
Renji calls out the campers in the shadows like a frustrated pro gamer. But it turns out their aim is even worse than his social skills when a stray bullet whizzes right past the goon and into a random girl's temple. Talk about a bad shift. This poor lady just went from serving drinks to a permanent nap because the elite security couldn't hit a target the size of a fridge. The blonde guy is actually offended by the lack of friendly fire safety. But hey, in this business, collateral damage is just a fancy word for oops.
While the budget Yakuza are busy having an existential crisis over Ozaki's sudden head ventilation, Birdneck here realizes his stealth stats are absolute 0 when Renji spawns behind him like a lag spike. Our boy hits him with a quick skill issue roast before treating the room to a synchronized 3-step lobotomy. Honestly, he's out here counting kills like he's hosting a very dark episode of Sesame Street. Look at that suppressed pistol flex. Renji's really making unwashed hobo the new meta for professional cleaning services.
Blondie here is playing a high-stakes game of Where's Waldo, except the prize for finding Waldo is a knife to the kidney. Check out those sweaty eyeballs. Man's nervous system is doing the Macarena, while Renji teleports through the crowd like he's got a premium subscription to physics. Before he can even finish his "this motherfucker is fast" inner monologue, Renji spawns behind him with a cheeky "you saw me," basically announcing that his trial version of living has officially expired.
Blondie finally catches up and hits us with a "found ya," like he's playing a high-stakes game of hide-and-seek with his own obituary. Renji is actually impressed by this skilled foreign talent, but that doesn't stop him from turning this knife fight into a high-speed, unsolicited chiropractic adjustment. Check out the blur in panel 3. Renji is moving so fast he's basically glitching through the guy's personal space, ending the exchange with a vibe check that definitely just reset Blondie's factory settings. Renji pulls out a sweep the leg special straight out of a 1980s dojo, proving that even legendary hitmen aren't above using a cheesy trope when the bullets run dry. While Blondie's still processing the floor's texture, Renji teleports behind him for a toxic cuddle, whispering that nobody beats him in a 1v1, not in 1,000 years, and definitely not with that haircut.
To really drive the point home, he serves up a 3-course meal of consecutive stabs to the chin, turning our foreign talent into a human leaky faucet before he can even finish his own inner monologue.
Blondie finally realizes Renji has the teleport perk equipped, hitting us with a behind me that's about 3 seconds too late for his health bar. Renji doesn't do talk therapy though. He just serves up a slam so violent it probably lowered the building's property value and turned this poor guy into a human accordion. Honestly, look at that landing. Renji is manhandling the Scoon like he's trying to fold a fitted sheet. And let's be real, we've all felt that level of done with this energy. Cue the edgy noir monologue, because apparently in this city, killers don't retire. They just ghost everyone, like a bad Tinder date. We're reminded that Renji used to be a bullet-dodging monster, though looking at his current hobo-chic silhouette, he's now mostly just a walking bounty. He's not back for a classic revenge tour, though. He's looking for something he never should have left behind, which, based on that 5 o'clock shadow, was definitely his grooming kit.
Following her fateful encounter with the mysterious man, the young eldritch being finds herself resting in a room surrounded by unsettling taxidermy and deep shadows. Though the atmosphere is chilling, she admits she isn't complaining, realizing she desperately needed a place to call home. As morning light finally breaks, the eerie silence is shattered by her new guardian's cheerful arrival, tray in hand as he announces that breakfast is served. The morning meal is served with a surprising sense of normalcy, as the woman treats the young eldritch being with effortless warmth. Despite her monstrous appearance, the girl notes with silent wonder that her new guardians don't react to her nature at all. As the couple exchanges pleasantries over a simple plate of bacon and eggs, she realizes she's finally found a place where she truly belongs. As the pair settles into a domestic routine of washing dishes, the woman casually asks if the girl intends to eventually search for her biological parents. The question hangs in the air until the young eldritch being quietly admits she isn't even sure they exist. Struck by the profound weight of the girl's isolation, the woman is quick to offer a sincere, regretful apology. To ease the girl's uncertainty, the woman offers a warm-hearting invitation, assuring her she's free to stay in their home for as long as she wants. This small kindness has the young eldritch being practically glowing with joy as she's affectionately dismissed from the morning chores. With a respectful bow and a spring in her step, she makes her exit, leaving her new guardian struck by just how adorable her monstrous word can be.
Wandering into the workshop, the girl finds her guardian meticulously carving away at a new masterpiece. He greets her with a casual smile, but she freezes upon seeing the stone. It's a perfect, detailed likeness of her own monstrous form. Stunned by this impossible display of intuition, she can only wonder, how did he manage to capture her image so perfectly?
The guardian explains that losing his sight has heightened his sense of touch to an extraordinary degree, allowing him to perceive the girl's true form with incredible precision. Seeing the proof in the intricate sculpture, she finally understands how he bypassed his blindness to capture her likeness so perfectly. But when he casually pivots to ask about her hobbies, she's forced to admit that until now, her entire existence has been defined by nothing but a desperate struggle for survival. Eager to help her find an interest, the guardian invites her to explore the workshop, gesturing toward a massive, intricate loom. But while he tries to pique her curiosity about the craft, the girl is already completely distracted, poking at a tiny fly with wide-eyed wonder. It seems the grand world of weaving will have to wait for this easily amused eldritch horror. Curiosity quickly turns to alarm as the girl peers into the fly's eye, discovering a cosmic void that mirrors her own unsettling nature. She recoils in absolute shock, her monstrous form flickering as she momentarily struggles to maintain her human facade. It's a jarring wake-up call, proving that even the smallest creatures in this workshop hold an intensity she never expected.
Reeling from the cosmic void she glimpsed within the fly, the girl's monstrous form begins to fracture as she trembles in absolute shock. The heavy tension is abruptly shattered by her guardian's casual laughter as he mundanely claims he simply hit himself to dismiss the terrifying aura filling the room. This jarring shift back to reality forces her monstrous presence to recede, leaving her wide-eyed and completely shaken by the bizarre normalcy of her new home.
The heavy atmosphere instantly evaporates when the guardian realizes he's accidentally nicked the girl's finger. He descends into a frantic, over-the-top panic, wailing apologies as if he'd committed a grave sin, while the girl watches in bewildered silence. In a display of unexpected tenderness, he carefully tends to the minor scratch, replacing the workshop's cosmic tension with a moment of bizarre, domestic sweetness.
The Guardian's frantic overreaction is quickly cut short when his wife steps in to deliver a firm reprimand for his clumsiness. With a sharp, "Be more careful," she puts him in his place, leaving him to offer a sheepish apology while their new daughter looks on in silent wonder. It's a chaotic yet heartwarming end to a morning filled with cosmic revelations and domestic mishaps.
Welcome to the picturesque village of despair, where the local hobby is sending heroes to fight the Demon King and then waiting for a return flight that's permanently canceled. Our protagonist is rocking a 1,000-yard stare that says he's seen way too many game over screens, especially since the narrator is busy reminding us that exactly 0% of these brave souls ever make it back for dinner. But hold the phone. The giant text says the heroes are actually back, so I guess we're finally breaking the eternal dirt nap streak today. Meet the dream team. We've got I Need a Nap hero, a knight who's 90% bucket, and our tiny mage with a hat that probably has its own zip code. This is the story of their long walk back, the ultimate post-game victory lap, where the real final boss is just finding a house that hasn't been looted yet. Look at that little wizard's face. She's already mentally filed her retirement papers and is just praying her neck doesn't snap under the weight of that massive headwear.
Flashback alert. We're jumping back a few months to meet Nina, a resident mage whose backpack is clearly carrying the entire party's emotional baggage and probably a spare kitchen sink. She's reminiscing about the days when the Demon King's castle was just a distant property listing, and the squad was a cozy group of 4, back when optimism wasn't yet a rare loot drop. Just look at that blushing, hopeful face. She clearly hasn't realized yet that her legendary quest is basically just a very long, very dangerous walking simulator.
We're officially on the road back to Coca Village, and Nina is vibrating with the frantic energy of someone who's spent way too long sleeping on literal dirt. While the hero plays the ultimate buzzkill by reminding her that demons don't respect out-of-office notifications, Nina is already mentally drowning in a hot bath and a mountain of ham. Talk about priorities. Look at that face. She's literally twitching with excitement, while the narrator tries to convince us these heroes of the West are prestigious legends and not just a bunch of exhausted tourists.
Now, Nina is leading the pack, and the hero is fully leaning into his grumpy dad era by telling her to watch her step like she's a toddler in a minefield. The knight and priestess are laying on the backhanded compliments, basically saying, "We totally trust you, Nina, even though you're a disaster waiting to happen and will definitely need a doctor in 5 minutes." Our girl is so high on being the party's designated pack mule/witch that she's blushing through the insults, probably because she's too busy balancing that skyscraper of a hat to realize they're roasting her.
Nina's face is currently doing a world-class impression of a melting marshmallow, but she's still swearing she's never felt better, while her brain cells clearly fight for third place. Cut to a classic Michael Bay explosion that probably wiped out their travel budget, and suddenly Nina is playing the noble savior, reaching out to the hero like she isn't one trip and fall away from a coma. The narrator tells us she literally doesn't know the meaning of the word fatigue, which is just a polite way of saying her stubbornness is officially bordering on a medical emergency.
Cue the classic campfire heart-to-heart.
Because nothing screams final boss tomorrow like a sentimental recap of all your near-death experiences. The hero is officially in his feelings, thanking the squad for sticking around, while he reminisces about picking up Nina and the three of them leaving Coca Village behind. Look at those blushing faces. They're clearly romanticizing the journey, conveniently forgetting that most of those happy moments involved dodging fireballs and wondering if the knight's armor doubles as a portable toilet. The hero pulls out the ultimate "we're not there yet" card, basically telling the squad that the Demon King was just the tutorial and the real final boss is actually reaching their front door without dying. Look at Nina in the background. She's out here struggling to simply exist while he's giving this dramatic safety first speech that probably sounds like a glorified OSHA briefing to her. By the end, she's looking at him with those massive "please adopt me" eyes, fully convinced that their treacherous hike will be a precious memory instead of a recurring nightmare for her future chiropractor.
Nina's back at it, trekking through a landscape so desolate it makes a parking lot look cozy, all while sporting a smile that says she's definitely forgotten how much her feet hurt. The hero finally gives the onward to Coca Village order, prompting our favorite little mage to declare she's going to savor every moment of this forced march. I guess when your hobby is carrying a backpack the size of a studio apartment, a scenic walk through a rock quarry is basically a 5-star vacation.
And cue the mandatory travel montage, where our exhausted legends hit every single biome the artists had in their fantasy landscapes folder. We've got the hero lurking in caves, the priestess doing her best mysterious water spirit impression, and the knight clanking through the snow like a sentient space heater. Nina is still rocking that 1,000-watt smile in a hat the size of a small sedan. Honestly, they're seeing more of the world on this victory lap than they did when they were actually busy saving it. And now we're in the middle of a magical skincare routine where Nina treats a glowing orb like an emotional support hamster before literally shattering it for some expensive mood lighting. She's checking off her enchanted diary and tucking into a tent that looks about as sturdy as my last New Year's resolution, whispering goodnight to the hero with the kind of pure energy that usually triggers a tragic flashback. Sweet dreams, guys. Try not to think about how saying "see you tomorrow" is basically a professional death flag in any other manga. Nina is now trekking through a wasteland so dry it makes a saltine cracker look like an oasis, only to stumble upon a literal game over screen in the form of a random desert skull. Naturally, our girl gets hit with a wave of existential dread, mourning this poor soul who apparently missed the hero's return memo and ended up as a permanent sand ornament. She actually stops to build a mini shrine and leave a flower, because when you're a mage with a hat that doubles as a satellite dish, you've clearly got plenty of time to play graveyard architect for total strangers. The hero finally spots home on the snowy horizon, but the only thing louder than the Arctic wind is the collective roar of their empty stomachs. Seriously, did they trade their final rations for Nina's skyscraper of a hat? Nina is currently oscillating between starving to death and dying of social anxiety, looking like a deer caught in the headlights of a horse-drawn carriage. Our fearless leader tries to play it cool, promising that the Coca villagers will give them a warm welcome, but Nina's twitching so hard I'm pretty sure her brain is currently running on a low battery warning. The wind is so savage, Nina's hat is basically a sail, forcing the squad to hunker down in a tent that looks like a lonely napkin lost in a blizzard. It's time for a high-stakes episode of Fantasy MasterChef as Nina seasons a mystery stew with enough salt to dehydrate a whale and a dash of mandrake powder for that recovery flavor. She's tossing in chicken, beans, and some liver-like bits. Honestly, after this march, they'd probably eat the pot itself if it were seasoned well enough. Dinner is served, and Nina's special pot looks like something brewed in a radioactive swamp. But our girl is beaming like she just won a Michelin star for biological warfare. One bite in, and the squad's souls are already trying to exit their bodies, with the heroes straight up questioning if this concoction even meets the legal requirements to be called food. They're desperately choking it down with the classic, "it tastes like medicine" excuse, proving that after slaying a demon lord, the party's true final boss is actually Nina's cooking. Nina's biohazard stew is finally going down, and surprisingly, everyone's still conscious enough to realize they're actually making record time on their long walk of shame. Our girl is getting all misty-eyed about buying her first grimoire at this spot, and even finds the strength to roast the hero for being a total lightweight with booze. Bold move for someone whose cooking is a literal health hazard. But the sleepy mage trope hits hard as she starts nodding off mid-sentence, rambling about their first meeting while her brain cells officially clock out for the night. Flashback alert. We see Nina as a pint-sized menace being babysat by the party, vibrating with so much gratitude for a basic heal that you'd think she dodged a lethal blow instead of a paper cut. She finally gets her hands on a grimoire, but instead of cool fireballs, she accidentally buys the Beginner's Guide to Ruining Someone's Life, filled with curses and instructions on how to harass animal corpses. Look at that shocked face. She wanted to be a wizard, but the fine print says she's one step away from becoming a neighborhood necromancer. Nina is currently having an existential crisis because Lord Ryan is treating her like his long-lost sister instead of a professional maid. Talk about being friend-zoned by a sibling substitute. She's out here trying to give a put-me-in coach speech about being useful, but the hero just shuts her down with a classic "don't hurt your brain" thinking head pat. Honestly, look at that face in the corner. She's one silly girl away from a total system reboot, while he treats their life or death journey like a casual stroll through the park. Nina's back to daydreaming about her hometown, probably picturing a world where her bed isn't made of gravel and her family actually remembers what she looks like. But her trip down memory lane gets a rude awakening when Ryan points out she's currently rocking this signature scent of 4 days without a shower. He busts out some fancy perfume like he's prepping for a gala instead of a dirt path, and Nina's actually getting jealous of a bottle of liquid. Honestly, look at her face. She's trying to maintain her dignity while Ryan treats this grueling trek like a Sephora sampling session. Flashback time. We find out Nina was basically a fantasy world stray until Ryan lured her into the party with a loaf of bread, the ultimate don't talk to strangers fail. She's getting all misty-eyed about having no home to return to, which I guess explains why she's been following Ryan's boots like a dedicated stalker for the last 300 miles. Just look at that zero thoughts head empty grin in the close-up. She's so high on the power of friendship that she doesn't even care she's currently eating dirt in the background panels while the rest of the squad power walks ahead. Ryan finally drops the F word, family, sending Nina into an emotional spiral while he doubles down on the sentimentality, basically offering a daddy subscription to the whole squad. Between Ryan's sudden desire to be a father figure and the priestess aggressively hugging Nina like a prize-winning hamster, our poor mage has officially reached a level of done that can only be expressed through that cursed poo-poo vibrating face. It's a wholesome found family moment if your idea of family involves public embarrassment and being treated like a sentient squeaky toy. Rain is officially drafting Nina into the squad's found family cult, and her face is literally liquefying from the emotional damage of a well-timed "we're family" line. Our girl is one hug away from becoming a puddle of gratitude on the trail, but she quickly swaps the tears for a nap when she fails spectacularly at night watch duty. Just look at that no thoughts, head empty expression. She really thought she was patrolling, but she was actually just speedrunning a coma.
Just when things were getting wholesome, the flashback takes a sharp turn into attempted murder territory, with a dragon so massive it probably has its own gravitational pull. Nina's mid-sentence before realizing she's basically a snack-sized appetizer with a hat, leading to the most honest reaction in manga history, screaming, "It's a dragon!" and hauling absolute tail. I guess the secret to her limitless energy is just the pure, unadulterated terror of being turned into a giant lizard's midnight snack.
Nina finally connects the dots and realizes that scrumptious campfire omelet was actually a batch of dragon babies. Congrats, you just ate the plot hook.
While Ryan is playing detective, wondering why the giant lizard is so cranky, Nina is sweating through her oversized hot because she literally swallowed the evidence. Realizing she's the reason for the scaly HR violation, she decides to pull the ultimate distraction move, looking like she's about to cry and sprint at the same time.
Talk about a bad Yelp review. Nina's out here offering a half-hearted apology for turning the dragon's kids into a breakfast special while simultaneously prepping a magical facelift for the mama lizard. With her found family currently napping in the tent, she's suddenly channeling major protagonist energy, swapping her usual melting marshmallow expression for a face that says she'll fight God himself to get home. Seriously, look at those eyes. She's gone from snack-sized mage to final boss just to make sure the squad doesn't miss their wake-up call for Coca Village.
Inside the tent, the squad is busy serving up some world-class intense anime stares, while the landscape outside is literally being terraformed by explosions. Rain and the gang are striking poses like they're in a high-budget shampoo commercial, seemingly oblivious to the fact that Nina is currently outside playing human shield against a very cranky dragon mama. Talk about a rude wake-up call. Nothing says good morning quite like the ground shaking violently while you're still trying to shake off a food coma.
Nina decides to skip the coffee and use a magical nuke as a literal alarm clock, greeting the guys with a cheerful good morning while looking like she just lost a fight with a professional wood chipper. She's rocking some fresh bandages as the ultimate I survived a dragon fashion statement, but she's already telling the squad to keep moving like she didn't just solo carry the entire zip code. Seriously, look at that battered smile. She's officially the CEO of Everything is Fine, while her HP bar is clearly screaming for help. Welcome to the Cassatore's Caravan Camp, a medieval rest stop where the gossip is hot and the hero's legendary street cred is about to take a serious nosedive. A wild brother appears, tackling Ryan with enough frantic energy to power a small village, effectively turning our world-saving epic into a messy, sweat-drenched family reunion. Ryan tries to play it cool, but it's tough to maintain that brooding savior aesthetic when your own brother thinks your heroic return is just a really long-winded practical joke. Ryan's brother is currently clinging to him like a desperate, weeping barnacle, rambling about mom's home-cooked meals, while Ryan tries to maintain his brooding savior aesthetic. Meanwhile, Nina is hitting a legendary high note of existential dread in the background, probably realizing that their grand homecoming is mostly just going to be awkward family therapy sessions. She's looking so haggard that even a local merchant is trying to stage a medical intervention, but our girl is power walking through the exhaustion because she's got a schedule to keep and a skincare routine to desperately ignore.
And just like that, the vibes go from wholesome family reunion to total existential nightmare in record time. Ryan's brother is sweating through his shirt while begging for answers, realizing that the girl on the ground isn't just a random hiker, but his brother's literal companion. Nina is currently rocking the faded aesthetic so hard, her eyes look like they've officially disconnected from the server, muttering about why the rest of the squad is, well, let's just say they're looking a little too ghostly for comfort. Talk about a buzzkill. One minute you're dreaming of home-cooked ham, and the next you're the centerpiece of a tragic plot reveal.
And just like that, the rainy homecoming vibes go from depressing to literal crime scene as Nina finally asks the million-dollar question: why is everyone currently doing a very convincing impression of a floor mat? Rain is out here playing detective over the local permanent sleepers, while Nina's face says she's officially hitting the 404 reality not found button. Talk about a buzzkill. You survive a dragon, only to find out your grand return has been downgraded to a soggy murder mystery. Nina is finally hitting the reality check button, and her brain is currently pulling a blue screen of death as she realizes her traveling companions might be permanent residents of Ghost Town. Those glowing shards aren't just for atmosphere. They're the literal pieces of her sanity shattering as the "we're all home" illusion gets a violent uninstall. One minute, she's rocking a 1,000-yard stare, and the next, she's face down in the mud, proving that even a skyscraper-sized hat can't cushion the blow of a massive, tragic plot twist.
Well, the cat, or rather the decomposing corpses, are finally out of the bag. Reen is dropping some major buzzkill lore, explaining that Nina has been using black magic to keep the party from rotting away like forgotten leftovers in the back of a fridge. Just look at her devastated face. She's officially graduated from party mascot to traumatized necromancer, while the hero explains that her special spell was actually just high-stakes weekend at Bernie's magic.
And just like that, the denial stage of grief has officially been evicted, leaving Nina to face the grim reality that her squad is less Heroes of the West and more Museum of Natural History exhibits. Despite the rainy day gloom and the total lack of a pulse from her friends, our girl is sticking to the script, declaring that as Nina the Sorceress, she's finishing this doomed road trip. Look at that determined, teary-eyed stare. She's officially committed to being the world's most overworked necromantic tour guide, dead set on dragging these glorified mannequins all the way back to their homeland.
Ryan is finally admitting his unforgivable crime of magical taxidermy, while the local background characters are having a collective stroke over the literal walking corpses standing in the rain. Nina is absolutely sobbing, begging for a welcome home for the squad that's more home-cooked meal and less exorcism. Honestly, look at those faces. It's the ultimate bring your dead friends to work day, and the local HR department is definitely not prepared. The local fan club isn't exactly handing out welcome home banners now that they've realized Nina's squad is basically a high-effort taxidermy project. She's currently winning the gold medal for self-gaslighting, whispering to her silent squad that she's totally fine, while the villagers look on with the same horror you'd have for a kid bringing a dead raccoon to show and tell. She's doubling down on the doing the right thing logic, even though her boots, and her grip on reality, are officially hanging by a very thin, very magical thread. Flashback alert, and things just went from tragic to extremely illegal, as we see Nina cradling the hero, who's currently doing a very convincing impression of a human pincushion. While the rest of the squad is scattered in the background like discarded action figures, she decides that if she wasn't strong enough to save them, she'll just be weak enough to commit a magical felony. Look at that shaky hand reaching for the forbidden book. It's the exact moment she chose to turn her friends into the world's most depressing puppet show, just to keep her happy homecoming dream alive. Nina is currently hitting a high note of psychological trauma that would make a therapist retire on the spot, screaming into the void because her magical CPR has officially been outed as a glorified puppet show. Look at the hero in that flashback. He's rocking more arrows than a target at an archery range, yet Nina decided that instead of a funeral, she'd just start a high-stakes game of pretend with their corpses. She's basically admitted that she's been having a one-way conversation with her own delusions this entire trip, proving that the only thing more broken than her friends' bodies is her own grip on reality.
And so, the world's most depressing parade continues, with Nina dragging her deadly quiet squad past a village sign that definitely didn't expect a visit from the walking deceased. Look at those smiles. It's amazing what a little forbidden black magic and sheer delusion can do for a group's complexion. Our girl is out here declaring their journey isn't over yet, which is a real bold lifestyle choice when your entire party is technically just a high-maintenance collection of taxidermy. Finally, Nina drags her weary, bandaged self and that skyscraper of a hat into Coca Village, looking like she's about to trade her remaining sanity for a 5-minute nap. She's hitting us with the classic teary-eyed, "we made it" smile, fully committed to the delusion as she leads her silent, taxidermied squad toward a warm welcome that's going to be a total PR nightmare the moment someone checks for a pulse. Look at those villagers lining the street. They're probably wondering if the grand return of their legendary heroes always included this much crying and so many people who haven't blinked since the last solstice. And we've finally reached the grand finale. Coca Village is rolling out the literal welcome home bows for their local legends. Nina is crying enough to end a drought, bowing back while her squad stands there with the stiff charisma of a high-end furniture showroom. It's a picture-perfect homecoming with the obligatory holy sunbeams trope, provided no one tries to shake hands or asks why the guests of honor are currently less talkative than a bag of rocks.
Check out these heroic close-ups, where the knight looks stiffer than a lawn ornament, while the priestess and our hero are fully committing to the perpetual nap aesthetic. Nina is leading this literal taxidermy parade past background NPCs who look like the artist just gave up and drew a bunch of sentient thumbprints. Honestly, how are these faceless villagers not smelling the absolute disaster and the literal rot strolling right past them?
Look at Nina, rocking the ultimate 1,000-yard stare while her brain cells scramble to find the right words to explain why her legendary squad is currently doing their best impression of garden gnomes. She's trying to introduce herself to the villagers, but between the sobbing and the crushing weight of that skyscraper-sized hat, she's basically a walking 404 error. The locals are giving her the classic, "Did we hire a hero or a traumatized toddler" look, while her silent, taxidermied party members continue to provide exactly zero emotional support in the background.
We open on Arcane, languishing in terminal boredom, though her quiet afternoon is quickly interrupted by breaking news of a monster attack in the city. When she asks to head outside for some fresh air, she's met with a stern and immediate refusal from her mother. As the television broadcasts footage of elite hunters currently on high alert, Arcane realizes that any hope for a stroll has been effectively grounded.
Arcane attempts a casual defense, nearly blowing her cover, before pivoting to a feigned retreat for a nap. Seizing the window of opportunity when her mother leaves for groceries, the eldritch daughter dives into bed with practiced ease. But as she stares into the void with a whispered apology, it's clear this bored monster has no intention of staying grounded.
While the mother browses the local market, her routine errand is abruptly cut short when a man in a sharp suit intercepts her in the crowd. He approaches with a polite request for her time, but the atmosphere shifts instantly as she catches his gaze. Behind the shadow of her wide-brimmed hat, she realizes the danger. She's been cornered by a hunter.
The hunter presents a wanted poster for a creature called Arachne, unaware he's speaking to an eldritch entity herself. Maintaining her composure, the mother offers a faint, unsettling smile, claiming she knows exactly where to find the beast. With a chilling promise to lead them there, the hunter's routine investigation takes a turn into much darker territory.
Back in the damp shadows of a back alley, the silence is shattered by the rhythmic thud of approaching boots. Arcane's instincts immediately flare as she tracks the vibrations, counting 2 distinct sets of footsteps closing in on her hiding spot. Peeking from cover with her eldritch limbs coiled and ready, she realizes the hunters have found her, leaving her to wonder exactly what they're doing here. Back in the damp shadows of a back alley, the silence is shattered by the rhythmic thud of approaching boots. Arcane's instincts immediately flare as she tracks the vibrations, counting 2 distinct sets of footsteps closing in on her hiding spot. Peeking from cover with her eldritch limbs coiled and ready, she realizes the hunters have found her, leaving her to wonder exactly what they're doing here. Retreating into the shadows, Arcane warns the intruders that they've hit a dead end, but the sudden clatter of a kicked can immediately gives her position away. The lead hunter rounds the corner with his weapon drawn, while the mother looms silently in the background, forcing Arcane into a tense, cornered standoff. Now, staring down the barrel of a gun, the eldritch daughter wonders if simply complying might be her only way out of this nightmare.
Arcane prepares to catch them off guard and bolt, only to freeze when she spots her mother standing right behind the hunter. Unaware of the danger at his back, the man levels his weapon, confident he's secured his jackpot.
But as he pulls the trigger, a sickening click is followed by a deafening bang, shattering the gun and his composure in an instant.
With a cold apology and a sudden change of plans, the mother drops her human facade, unleashing a terrifying display of eldritch limbs. Before the officer can even process the shift, a violent strike sends him hurtling through the air and out of the frame. Watching from the shadows, a stunned Arcane can only look on as her mother effortlessly clears the path. As the hunter lies incapacitated, the mother decides against a lethal finish, opting instead to use her powers to erase his memory of the encounter entirely. Arcane watches in stunned silence as her mother manipulates a thin thread of energy, confirming her suspicion that she is a formidable mind-sapper. This chilling display of power leaves the daughter spiraling with questions about her father's mysterious past, wondering if the capable blind man was once a hunter himself.
The lethal tension breaks as the mother checks on Arcane, citing her husband's pacifist philosophy as the only reason the hunter is still breathing. However, the relief is short-lived when she sharply pivots back into parent mode, reminding Arcane that she was strictly forbidden from leaving the house. Caught red-handed and looking thoroughly defeated, the eldritch daughter can only offer a sheepish apology for her restless instincts before the pair finally heads home for dinner.
In a world reclaimed by silence, a lone girl named Sheena navigates the dusty, tattered ruins of a civilization long gone. Followed by a strange, multi-legged companion, she moves with purpose through the shadows, pausing only to water a solitary plant by a broken window. With a soft, "Good morning," she begins another day of her lonely mission to cleanse the land and search for any sign of human life. The camera pulls back to reveal the staggering scale of the desolation. A sprawling graveyard of concrete and steel where massive buildings crumble under the weight of time. In this silent city, the only signs of life are the strange, jagged growths erupting from the ruins like scars on the landscape. Yet Sheena remains remarkably unfazed, casually asking her companion if they should find some breakfast. It's a hauntingly beautiful contrast, a mundane morning routine performed in the literal shadow of a world's end. Stepping out from her makeshift shelter, Sheena secures her gear as the heavy door groans shut, echoing through the empty halls. Her small companion hitches a ride on her shoulder as she begins the long descent through the narrow, overgrown stairwells of the decaying apartment complex. Navigating the shadows of the silent city, she moves with a practiced calm, heading deeper into the ruins to begin her day's mission. Sayo reaches an automated checkpoint, her small silhouette cast against the towering ruins of a massive overpass. As she scans her palm, the system recognizes her as Ushimitsu Sayo, the 1,869,923rd registered user. It's a chilling reminder of the scale of the past. Out of millions of residents, the screen confirms she is now the only soul left in the entire facility. The heavy security doors groan shut behind Sayo, the mechanical clicks echoing like a final seal against the outside world. As she steps forward, the true scale of the facility is revealed, a staggering, multi-leveled abyss of industrial pipes and concrete that dwarfs her small frame. Deep within the belly of this silent machine, her solitary trek into the heart of the ruins has only just begun. Entering a massive storage vault, Sayo navigates the towering shelves and decides on a mega-spicy rice curry for her morning meal. Her small throne companion tries to assist, but quickly begins to tremble under the weight of several crates, prompting Sayo to playfully scold its greed. Looking over the remaining rations, she notes with quiet satisfaction that she is nearly finished clearing this entire section of the facility. Having secured her meal, Sayo finishes her morning prep by carefully decanting fuel into a small kettle. With her pack set, she takes a final, contemplative look at the concrete graveyard outside,
before stepping onto a narrow, cluttered balcony. It's a quiet, practiced routine in a world where she is the only soul left to witness it. Settling into her quiet shelter, Sayo passes the time reading while her small companion gnaws on a spare part nearby. The rhythmic chuff of the steaming kettle is soon broken by the sharp beep of a timer, signaling that her mega-spicy meal is finally ready. She peels back the lid of the curry, the rising steam providing a momentary sense of warmth in this frozen, silent world. Offering a brief prayer before her meal, Sayo stirs the steaming, mega-spicy curry, carefully blowing on the first bite to cool it down. As she takes a mouthful, the intense heat hits her instantly, leaving her sweating and breathless. In the cold silence of the facility, this small, fiery spark of flavor is a visceral reminder of her own humanity. With her fiery meal finished, Sayo offers a quiet word of thanks before moving from her living quarters to the next stage of her routine. "Come on," she calls to her mechanical companion. "Let's get ready for a trip." Entering her well-stocked armory, she stands before a wall of weaponry and supplies, mentally preparing for the long mission into the desolate unknown.
Sayo methodically suits up, zipping into her tactical gear and tightening her hair with a sense of grim purpose. The sharp mechanical clicks of her equipment signal she's finally ready for whatever the wasteland holds. Leaving the relative safety of her quarters behind, she steps through the final heavy doors and into the hollow silence. "Let's head out," she commands, her small companion trailing close behind as she begins her long trek into the ruins.
Checking her wrist-mounted map, Sayo calculates that Residential District 4 should be fully cleared by the end of the week. As hollow echoes trail her through the gloom, she navigates the silent, concrete labyrinth, moving with the practiced efficiency of a seasoned scout. With a heavy rattle, she hauls open a massive steel shutter, pushing further into the heart of the decaying city. Sayo prepares her rugged transport for the journey, her companion already perched on the dashboard as she settles into the driver's seat. Emerging from the shadows of the underground garage, the grim weight of history sets in. 50 years have passed since the collapse. Now, her vehicle is a solitary speck, navigating a monumental graveyard of steel and concrete, a haunting reminder of the day the majority of humankind was wiped out. As Sayo maneuvers through the debris, she reflects on the catalyst of the collapse, the sudden arrival of alien life forms and a toxic miasma that suffocated the globe. Humanity was overwhelmed in an instant, leaving behind the jagged, skeletal remains of the invaders that survivors eventually came to call executioners. It's a chilling reminder that the silent world she now cleanses was once a battlefield where mankind simply stood no chance. Sayo reaches the desolate 4th Residential District, where the once bustling communal housing is now choked by vines and decay. Activating her internal HUD, she scans the skeletal remains of the city until her eye locks onto a chilling signal. Deep within the ruins, a 92% match for crystal bodies triggers an alert. She's finally found a response in the hollow silence. Navigating the vine-choked stairwells of the residential block, Sayo notes with quiet confidence that they might actually finish the sweep ahead of schedule. She pushes deeper into the building's skeletal interior, her steady footsteps echoing through the grimy, light-streaked corridors. Guided by the crystal body signal, she moves through the hollow silence, a solitary figure hunting for remnants in a world that's long since gone cold. Sayo pushes into the heart of a decaying apartment where her search finally ends in a grim discovery, a crystalline humanoid figure, petrified and slumped against the wall. She stands in a heavy, contemplative silence, her calm gaze fixed on the jagged remains of a world long gone. The tension in the room is palpable, punctuated only by the sudden sharp twitch of her companion's claw as they confront this haunting relic of the collapse. The silence is shattered as the crystalline relic lunges with a lethal swipe, its single eye snapping open to reveal a hidden predatory life. Sayo reacts with terrifying speed, meeting the ambush with a point-blank blast that echoes through the hollow apartment. Before the creature can recover, she slams it against the floor, her weapon clicking into place with cold, mechanical precision. Standing over the shattered remains, Sayo quietly admits she let her guard down, but the physical ambush was only half the danger. She explains that the executioners release a lethal miasma, a toxic gas that, when inhaled by humans, triggers a grotesque crystalline transformation. In a chilling reveal, Sayo turns toward the light, showing she is already a host to the very corruption she hunts, as a jagged growth tears through her jaw with a hollow, mechanical hiss.
Moving deeper into the apartment, Sayo discovers a tragic tableau frozen in time. An artist and his subject, both petrified mid-session by the encroaching crystallization. The jagged, cubic growths erupting from their bodies serve as a visceral reminder of the executioner play's absolute lethality. In this silent world, there is no recovery, as the grim reality of the ruins confirms. Once the infection takes hold, the victim swiftly dies.
These jagged minerals are the physical manifestation of crystallosis, a terminal plague for which no treatment exists. Sayo discovers the room is filled with nothing but portraits of the same woman, a final, desperate effort by the artist to preserve her memory as they both succumbed. It's a haunting testament to human devotion, striving to let her live on just a moment longer in a world that has already ended.
Sayo reassures her mechanical companion that she's all right, sending it off to scan the area for survivors while she draws her combat knife. With a practiced and chilling detachment, she begins to carve the cubic minerals directly from her own jaw. These jagged shards fall away with a sickening rattle, a grim maintenance routine required for a girl living on borrowed time.
Sayo wipes the fresh blood from her lip, her expression unreadable as she stares down at the final resting place of the artist and his muse. They lie side by side in the quiet ruins, their faces partially claimed by the same geometric crystals that have ravaged the world. It's a somber end to a tragic story of devotion, leaving Sayo as the sole witness to a love that survived the collapse, if only in stone. Accepting her companion's report that no survivors remain, Sayo offers a quiet word of thanks before carefully packing away the artist's final portrait. Securing the memory in her kit, she zips up her gear and prepares to leave the silent apartment behind. With a simple, "Let's get going," Sayo heads back into the sprawling ruins to continue her lonely mission.
Sayo pauses at the threshold, a fresh bandage marking the spot where she just performed her grim self-surgery. She casts a final, lingering look at the easel, where the artist's last portrait remains as a silent sentinel in the dust-choked room. With the memory secured and her mission calling, she turns away from the tragedy of the past to face the infinite silence of the ruins once more.
The devastation is absolute. Any area touched by the highly contagious crystallosis becomes instantly uninhabitable for human life. Sayo's mission is twofold: to purify these jagged ruins for future habitation and to search for any survivors remaining in the silence. As the clock ticks forward, she drives on toward her next objective, a solitary soul navigating a world that has already ended.
Observing what she calls perfect timing, Sayo decides on a brief detour and brings her rugged transport to a sharp halt. After a quick gear check, she navigates the skeletal remains of an industrial complex, her mechanical companion hitching a ride as they descend through the concrete stairwells. Stepping through a heavy steel door, she vanishes into the facility's depths, ready to uncover whatever secrets remain hidden in the dark.
High above the concrete graveyard, Sayo continues her arduous ascent, a solitary spark of life against the decaying skyline. The data is sobering. Purification has reached a mere 0.002% of its target, a task that feels as endless as the silence itself. Pausing only for a mechanical meal, the weight of her mission becomes clear as she faces the grim reality that in all her searching, she has never encountered a single survivor.
Sayo perches on the edge of a concrete precipice, her small silhouette dwarfed by the skeletal remains of a city that once pulsed with life. As the fading light catches the jagged ruins, she confirms a heavy truth. The purification work is far from over and will continue again tomorrow. For Sayo, this isn't just a job. It's a lonely, eternal duty in a world that has long since forgotten the sound of a human voice.